There's a kind of joy that only grandchildren can bring. It's in the way their laughter fills a room, sudden and bright. It's in the way their small hands reach for yours, trusting without question. It's in the way their faces light up when they spot you from across the room, no matter how many other people are around. It's a joy unlike anything else because it holds a beautiful contradiction. You get to be close to their lives without carrying the heavy weight of daily responsibility. You are a safe harbor, a storyteller, a steady presence when the world feels too fast or too loud. And yet, with that joy comes a quiet, sometimes complicated question. How do you stay close as they grow? How do you remain someone they run to? Not just when they're little, but when they're older, when their world expands beyond bedtime stories and playground adventures. It's easy to believe that once the early years pass, the bond will naturally hold. But relationships aren't something we inherit. They're something we build and rebuild over and over with patience, attention, and love that evolve alongside them. And in the world they're growing up in, fast, noisy, digital, full of 1,000 voices telling them who they should be, staying connected takes more than love alone. It takes intention. It takes wisdom. It takes the delicate art of remaining both a soft place to land and a voice they still respect. Today, we're going to walk through 5 powerful ways to strengthen your bond with your grandchildren while remaining an enduring, trusted authority in their lives. Not with lectures, not with force, but with the kind of presence that earns loyalty naturally, the way deep roots hold a tree steady through every storm. Because staying close isn't about clinging tighter. It's about becoming the kind of person they want to come back to again and again through every season of their lives. First, we'll begin with something foundational, something that matters far more than knowing the latest apps or slang. We'll talk about how being genuinely present, not just physically but emotionally, lays the strongest groundwork for lifelong trust. Let's start there, where true connection always begins. Children, even as they grow into teens and young adults, have an uncanny ability to sense when someone is only half listening. They notice when the adults in their lives are nodding without hearing, smiling without seeing, sitting nearby without truly being present. In a world that constantly demands their attention, from phones, from school, from friends, the people who offer them full, undivided attention stand out like lighthouses in a storm. Grandparents have the rare and beautiful chance to be those lighthouses. But it takes more than showing up. It takes the kind of presence that says, right now, nothing is more important than you. When you're with your grandchildren, especially in a world full of endless distractions, the most powerful thing you can offer is your focused, intentional attention. That means putting the phone down, turning away from the television, and truly entering their world, even if just for a few minutes at a time. It means asking about what they care about, even if you don't fully understand it. It means watching the magic trick they practiced for hours, listening to the long story about their favorite video game, admiring the drawing that's more imagination than realism. It's in these small, attentive moments that trust takes root. Frank, 72, realized this when his granddaughter, Mia, started visiting him less often. At first, he thought she was just growing up, pulling away as teenagers often do. But then one afternoon, Mia blurted out, "You're always on your phone when I'm talking." Frank hadn't even noticed. His quick glances at messages, his distracted nods, they had sent a message louder than any words. "You're not my priority right now." That night, he made a decision. From that moment on, when Mia was with him, his phone stayed in a drawer. No distractions, no half-presence, just real listening. Within weeks, their bond began to rebuild. Not through grand gestures, but through steady, unhurried attention. Children don't need perfect answers or perfect schedules. They need to feel that when they come to you, they're seen. That their stories, their questions, even their silences matter. This doesn't mean you have to entertain constantly. Presence is not performance. It's about being available, being curious, being willing to sit in the slow, sometimes awkward spaces where real connection grows. This week, think about the next time you'll be with your grandchild, or even on a call or video chat. Plan for a few minutes of true, undivided attention. Let them lead the conversation. Follow their curiosity. Ask questions not to guide, but to understand. You may be surprised how quickly even the most guarded teenager softens when they realize they're truly being heard. And if you've experienced a moment when real attention changed a conversation, deepened a bond, or reopened a door you thought was closed, share in the comments. Your story could encourage someone else to take that small but transformational step. Now that we've anchored ourselves in the power of true presence, let's move into another key way to strengthen your role in their lives. Learning how to offer guidance in a way that doesn't sound like correction, but like companionship. A shift that keeps their trust while honoring the wisdom you've earned. There's a natural impulse to want to teach the next generation, to spare them the mistakes we made, to guide them through the rough waters we once barely navigated ourselves. And that impulse comes from love, from a lifetime of lessons, many of them learned the hard way. But here's the quiet truth. Advice, when delivered as instruction, often builds walls. Stories, when shared from the heart, build bridges. Children and teenagers are wired to pull away from lectures. It's part of growing into their own independence. They need to test boundaries, to think their own thoughts, to believe that their discoveries are their own. When we frame our wisdom as directives, you should, you need to, you must, we risk triggering that natural resistance. Not because they don't love us, not because they don't need our wisdom, but because no one wants to feel like they're being managed, especially when they're carving out their own place in the world. That's why storytelling is so powerful. A well-chosen story doesn't tell someone what to do. It invites them to see. It plants seeds without demanding immediate growth. Linda, 70, realized this with her grandson, Caleb. Every time she tried to warn him about managing money, saving, budgeting, resisting the urge to spend recklessly, he shut down. Polite but distant. Then one afternoon, sitting at the kitchen table, she told him about the first paycheck she ever earned. How she spent almost all of it on a beautiful coat she didn't really need. And how, 3 weeks later, she didn't have enough money for a train ticket home to see her family. She didn't lecture. She didn't moralize. She just told the story, laughing a little at her younger self. Caleb listened, really listened, and later that year when he got his first job, he mentioned her story. Not her advice, her story. When you share experiences instead of edicts, you leave room for your grandchildren to see themselves in your journey, to draw their own conclusions, to respect your wisdom without feeling controlled by it. The next time you feel the urge to offer advice, pause. Ask yourself, is there a story from my own life that could illuminate this lesson more gently? Share your stories, your stumbles, your surprises. Let them see that even the people they admire most have had moments of doubt, of failure, of unexpected grace. And don't worry if they don't immediately respond with wide-eyed gratitude. Seeds take time. You're planting something deeper than agreement. You're planting trust. If you found that a story, shared without expectation, helps strengthen a bond with a younger person in your life, share that moment in the comments. Every story we tell becomes part of a larger conversation about how wisdom is passed down, not by shouting, but by offering. Now that we've explored the art of guiding through stories, it's time to step into another vital practice, respecting their individuality even as we stay connected. Because the strongest bonds are built not on sameness, but on the freedom to be fully, gloriously different, and still deeply loved. One of the tenderest joys of grandparenting is seeing echoes of your family line. Your smile and their grin, your stubbornness and their determination, your love of books or music or cooking alive in someone so new. But there's a quiet trap hidden in that joy. The temptation to see your grandchildren only through the lens of your memories. To expect them to be the children they once were, or to mold them into reflections of the past you hold dear. Real connection asks for something harder, but infinitely more beautiful. It asks you to see them not as extensions of yourself, but as unfolding, independent souls. To honor who they are becoming, even when that path surprises you, even when it challenges your expectations. Tom, 74, felt this tension with his granddaughter Lily. He had dreamed she would follow in the family's long tradition of military service. But Lily was an artist, a dreamer. She spoke in colors and metaphors, cared more about sketchbooks than uniforms. At first, Tom struggled. He worried about her future, about whether she would find security in a world that often feels harsh. He tried suggesting other paths, just in case, he said. But Lily pulled away, sensing that her choices were disappointing the grandfather she adored. One afternoon, instead of giving advice, Tom asked her to show him her favorite drawings. Slowly, page by page, Lily shared her world, and Tom realized that her courage wasn't about following a safe path. It was about daring to create her own. He told her, simply and sincerely, "I'm proud of the way you see the world." And from that day, their bond deepened. Not because he agreed with every choice she would make, but because he chose to love her forward, not backward. Respecting who your grandchildren are becoming means learning their music, even if it's not your style. It means listening to their dreams, even if they don't match the ones you once held dear. It means trusting that the roots you help plant will hold steady, even as their branches stretch in directions you never imagined. It doesn't mean abandoning your values or pretending you don't have hopes for them. It means giving your love room to breathe. It means understanding that real authority, the kind that lasts, that carries weight, is built on respect, not control. This week, if you find yourself feeling disconnected from a grandchild's choices or passions, try stepping closer with curiosity instead of critique. Ask questions. Celebrate their efforts. Find one small thing about their world that you can genuinely admire and tell them. Even if it's just the determination in their voice when they talk about a dream you don't fully understand. If you've experienced the quiet shift that happens when you chose acceptance over expectation, share it in the comments. Those stories build bridges across generations, across differences, across the beautiful, complex distance between past and future. Now that we've embraced the importance of respect and acceptance, it's time to turn to another key practice, one that strengthens your bond, not just through conversations, but through actions. Because sometimes the most powerful way to lead is by simply living well yourself. Let's explore that next. Children, no matter how old they get, pay more attention to how we live than to what we say. They are keen observers. They notice how we handle frustration, how we treat the waitress when the meal comes late, how we talk about people who disagree with us, how we face setbacks, losses, joys, changes. They learn not just from our advice, but from our habits, our reactions, our way of moving through the world. And the older they get, the more they look, not for lectures, but for models. They're searching, often unconsciously, for examples of what it looks like to grow older with dignity, with humor, with courage. They're watching to see if age makes a person bitter or better, shrinking or expanding. That's why one of the most powerful ways to stay an anchor in your grandchildren's lives is not to tell them how to live, but to show them, every day, how you continue to live well yourself. Elaine, 76, realized this without ever planning to. After her husband passed away, she continued her long-standing tradition of volunteering at a local animal shelter. She didn't do it for show. She didn't post about it online. She simply kept showing up, walking dogs, comforting scared cats, scrubbing kennels. Her granddaughter, Emma, 16 at the time, started tagging along. Not because Elaine told her she should volunteer, but because she watched her grandmother move through grief with purpose and tenderness. Because she saw an example of someone who didn't let loss close the door to love. Living well doesn't mean living perfectly. It means continuing to find reasons to wake up with curiosity, to treat others with kindness, to stay engaged with the world even when it feels easier to pull away. It means apologizing when you're wrong, laughing at yourself, speaking with honesty instead of sarcasm. It means showing that dignity doesn't come from stubbornness. It comes from the humility to keep learning, even now. When grandchildren see you doing the hard things, healing after heartbreak, trying something new, standing up for what's right without needing applause, they carry those images with them. They build quiet portraits in their minds of what strength really looks like. Not loud, not flashy, not demanding, but steady, deep, real. This week, notice the small ways you live your values without speaking them aloud. Notice where your actions teach more powerfully than any speech ever could. And if there's an area where you feel called to live more intentionally, not perfectly, just more openly, lean into it. Someone younger than you may be watching more closely than you realize. If you have a memory of a grandparent or elder who shaped your life not by what they told you, but by how they lived, share in the comments. Those are the real legacies, the ones that ripple out quietly, carried from heart to heart, long after words have faded. Now, as we gather the threads of presence, storytelling, respect, and example, it's time to turn to the final, most enduring piece of this bond, the one that makes everything else possible. Let's step into that now. In the end, what grandchildren need most is not perfection. It's not endless wisdom. It's not even the ability to solve every problem or offer flawless advice. What they need, what they will remember decades from now, is the feeling that your love was never up for negotiation, that it wasn't tied to their grades or their choices or how neatly they followed the path you might have imagined for them. That no matter how far they roamed, how often they stumbled, how loudly they questioned the world, you stayed. You stayed steady. You stayed kind. You stayed open. Unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional agreement. It doesn't mean approving of every decision or pretending you don't have opinions. It means keeping the door open always, no matter how complicated things get. It means creating a relationship where they know, I can come back, I can mess up, I can change my mind, and there will still be a place for me here. James, 79, saw this unfold with his grandson Ethan. When Ethan dropped out of college against everyone's advice, the family was furious. Holidays were tense, conversations short, but James made a quiet choice. He didn't lecture. He didn't push. He called Ethan every Sunday just to talk about sports, about the weather, about anything that kept the connection alive. He ended every call the same way. I love you, kid, no matter what. It took 2 years, but eventually Ethan found his way back to a new career, to new ambitions, to the family gatherings he once avoided. And when he hugged his grandfather that Christmas, he whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Unconditional love doesn't erase disappointment or frustration. It weaves stronger threads around them. It says, I see who you are underneath your choices, and that person is still good, still worthy, still mine. Practicing unconditional love means learning to hold space instead of always filling it with advice. It means asking, how can I support you? Instead of, why didn't you do it my way? It means remembering that the relationship matters more than being right. That love's most powerful testimony isn't in the moments when everything is easy. It's in the moments when staying connected takes work, patience, and grace. This week, if you find yourself tempted to pull away when a grandchild's path feels unfamiliar or disappointing, pause. Ask yourself, what would it look like to love them right through this? Not after they fix it, but right now. If you have a story where unconditional love built a bridge you thought was lost, share in the comments. Those stories matter. They remind us all that the bonds we build with the next generation are not made of lectures or rules. They're made of loyalty, of openness, of quiet, stubborn, unwavering love. Let's gather the heart of everything we've walked through today. First, show up with your whole attention, not just your presence. Second, offer guidance through stories, not through lectures. Third, respect who they're becoming, not just who you remember. Fourth, lead by example, not by demands. Fifth, build a bond rooted in unconditional love, not conditional approval. Staying close to your grandchildren, staying in authority they trust, isn't about holding tighter. It's about showing up fully, loving wisely, leading gently, and trusting that the roots you plant now will hold steady even as their lives stretch and change in ways you can't yet imagine. Thank you for being with us today. If this conversation gave you ideas, encouragement, or even just a quiet moment of reflection, give this video a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more heartful ways to keep building bridges across generations. We'll see you again soon.